Good morning! It is Sunday, April 21st, and I am leaving for C2E2 on Wednesday of this week. Meaning, I have 3 days to make a cosplay. And I have had this girl sit in my closet for, I think, 3 years now? Oh. And I just noticed that I think she has a stain on the front. Like a big stain. Can you see it on camera? So I'm gonna throw her in the wash real quick and hope that comes out. Right, I'm gonna try to make Zero Suit Samus accessories in the next 3 days. Her bracelet, shoes, gun, adjust her wig a little bit, and I'm even gonna try to make her glow. LEDs again? Again? Yes, because I hate myself. Can I zhuzh up this pre-made cosplay in the next 3 days and wear it to C2E2? We'll see. Yeah, but if you saw that intro, you know. Let's make this pre-made costume pop with some epic glowing props, starting with the shoes. These are a pair that match close enough to the reference, and I don't really wear them anymore as daily shoes, so they are getting sacrificed into permanent Samus heels. I'm gonna turn them into detailed sci-fi glowing boots with the technique that every cosplayer should get used to: cling wrap and duct tape. This way I can draw on my pattern and I will know exactly where every piece will go. Cosplay shoes are seriously underrated as an accessory. They can make a costume look 10 times more high effort. While these ones are going to be glued down with foam and painted so they're permanently attached, it's also an option to make fabric shoe covers that you can attach your pieces to. That way you can use a comfy pair of shoes that you like, but still take the cosplay off of them at the end of the day. Before I go turning these patterns into the foam shoe cover, let me explain to you how I am planning to make it glow. I have pre-made little fairy lights that have a little switch and battery pack already attached to them. I love these. I have a clear plastic folder from the dollar store. I have Plastizote, also known as LED foam, and I get this stuff from Lumen's Workshop. They are an incredible cosplay shop that has tons of foam, paints, materials, tools, anything that you could need. I do highly recommend you check them out, and their link is below. I will say they are sponsoring my next year's worth of cosplay, and they have already sent me a ton of material. I genuinely think their stuff is good. I wouldn't be making cosplay from it if I didn't. Anyway, Plastizote foam is like a semi-transparent foam that light can shine through and is perfect for any glowing LED props that you have. See that? When these lights are all like spread out, it's like little pinpricks, but then when behind here, it's a little bit more diffused. And then this folder is just to help tint the foam without having to find like a transparent paint. And then there you have a nice yellow glow for her shoes. I'll be marking these, which ones are going to be cut from regular EVA foam, and then my Plastizote LED foam, and gluing them all together, putting my lights underneath, and slowly build up these shapes to make a nice 3D structure. These shoes are going to be permanent Samus shoes, so I'm going to be gluing these foam pieces right down and painting the shoe blue. Let's get to crafting. When I cut up these duct tape patterns, I mark which pieces are left and right, and also which pieces are regular EVA foam versus the Plastizote LED foam. After these are all cut up and separated, it can get confusing for which pieces go where. I have definitely glued the wrong ones together in the past. When tracing my patterns on the LED foam, I draw my marks a couple of millimeters away from the actual pattern so that I can cut it out without those marks showing up on the final piece. These aren't getting covered in primer or paint, so I want to keep them clear of marks. This helps the LED shine through and have a cleaner final look. Now it's just a shoe-shaped 3D puzzle that I get to put together. The edges get a very thin coat of my favorite glue, contact cement. This stuff is perfect for foam, but it's also toxic, so wear a respirator. You only need a super thin coat of this stuff because it only works once it gets dry and tacky. I let the contact cement dry for a minute before pressing those edges together to create a super strong bond. Seriously, it will not separate after this. The base of the foam shoe covers is finished, but there are still a lot of teeny little details to layer on top. I already traced these shapes onto my first pattern, so they get cut out, turned into an EVA foam piece, and then glued into place with more contact cement. Samus's heels have some little carved details as well, which can be made with an X-Acto knife and a heat gun. The heat applied to this cut will open it up and make it much more visible. My foam shoes are almost ready to get glued onto the shoe, but first I'm going to add that plastic yellow folder that I got from the dollar store. This is my last sheet in this color, so I have to make sure I get all these patterns right on my first try. Luckily, all the pen marks rub right off with my finger, so I don't have to worry about having messy marks all over these glowing sections. I traced the same patterns that I used for the LED Plastizote foam, cut them out, then glue them on top of my foam pieces with contact cement again. I wrapped my foam around the shoe and taped it down with some duct tape just to make sure the size and shape was everything that I wanted. Cryptid sighting! And do some mental planning for how I'm going to be gluing in those LED fairy lights. The last time I put LEDs in a costume was Lilia, the centaur, and those were like programmed, soldered, extremely complex. For me anyway. And I hated every second of it, so I'm going back to the easy method. Because this doesn't require any brain power, except put them in, turn them on. Okay, well maybe a tiny bit of brain power, because I do have to space out these little dots of lights in order to try and achieve a diffused glow. Plus, think about where to glue down the battery pack so that the switch is easily accessible. But these strings of light are on a posable, bendable wire, making it super easy to rearrange the distance of each light and wrap them around the inside of this shoe armor. They get hot glued right down to the back of this LED foam. But there's still an extra step I can do to diffuse these lights even more. Putting the lights closer together helps, but adding something reflective behind the lights also works, which is why I glue down a layer of aluminum foil. The ultimate way to diffuse LEDs is to have more material in between the lights and the foam, because the more stuff the light has to pass through, the softer it will look. It also helps if you point the LEDs in a certain direction, so laying them on the edge and then pointing them inwards towards the Plastizote foam. But that technique works best when you have a bigger prop with a lot more space, which obviously these shoes do not. Even if the lights aren't perfectly diffused into a soft glow, I'm just happy to have a pair of glowing Samus shoes. The easy way, no coating or soldering required. And once again, going back to my favorite glue, contact cement, to attach this foam armor directly to my heels. on makes me feel so badass. I cannot wait to have them painted and finished. They especially look epic in the dark. Before I crashed last night, I covered my new boots in some masking tape along the yellow sections and on the zipper because these are going to get a heavy dose of Plastidip. This is my favorite primer. It's great for pieces that are going to need a lot of flexibility, so they might come into contact with other things or squish, and shoe pieces are definitely one of those types of armor. Then while I'm waiting for the Plastidip primer to cure on these, I can get started on the bracelets and the pew pew. Let's do it. Yeah, you guessed it, more cling wrap, more duct tape to pattern these little bracelets. They're going to be made in pretty much the exact same way as the shoes. A little 3D puzzle of EVA foam and Plastizote covered with that yellow folder with LEDs and aluminum foil glued to the inside. Those glowing sections will get masked before I spray them both with my Plastizote primer. Plastidip primer. I ran out of fairy lights. Kind of a bummer, but that's all right. I've got one of them. All the rest of my fairy lights are in pink, so. Traced my hand on a piece of paper just so I have the correct scale, and I'm just gonna be looking at this 3D model and sketching out Samus's gun. Yeah, I'm just gonna eyeball it. Does Samus's gun have a name? Samus Aran gun name. Well, the arm cannon's on. Oh, Paralyzer. Can you tell I am a fake Metroid fan? I played one Metroid game, I think when I was like 11 years old, on my Nintendo DS. And I played it for maybe 30 minutes and then never touched it again because it was too hard and I was too stupid to understand what was going on. However, I am a connoisseur of Super Smash Bros. And I love all of my girlies. Could I have just printed this out to scale and used that as my pattern? And it would have been a heck of a lot easier than sketching it by hand? Yeah, absolutely, yeah. In fact, please do that instead of drawing it. You're pretty much guaranteed to have your prop's dimensions match the reference perfectly if you just print it out. But I like this step, so freehanding it is. Building a prop like this is just a little bit different than a wearable piece of armor because it's just breaking it down into its most basic shapes. Then adding on more and more pieces of EVA foam until you build up those details into the final prop. I layered a couple sheets of 6mm foam for the barrel and the handle of this Paralyzer gun, gluing them together with my contact cement, and then just started adding smaller and smaller pieces. Doesn't match the final reference exactly due to the time crunch, but it does look pretty darn good for being built in only a couple of hours. This prop and the wrist straps got their own coats of Plastidip primer off camera to prep them for the final painting step. But while I was waiting for that primer to dry, I moved on to another important piece of this cosplay, the wig. somewhere in here is a blonde ponytail wig. So, wish me luck. She's here. Excuse me, miss. I need this. Right, so ponytail wig. She needs some work. Yikes. I took a shower and now I might actually have the energy to give this wig a try. The upside to this wig is that it's already styled as a ponytail wig. So the wefts at the very bottom hairline are sewn so that they're meant to go upwards into a ponytail shape. So it does make my life easier. I don't have to glue in an all new hairline or anything like that. However, the downside is that updos are still a massive pain to style. I do think I'm going to make a ponytail structure that goes underneath the wig with warbler and a little PVC pipe sticking out. And then this ponytail will attach onto that PVC pipe back here. But that also means going layer by layer and slowly styling this wig so that it goes towards that ponytail structure. And it's just annoying and time consuming and I don't want to do it. She's not a bad wig, she just needs some help. So come join me in huffing these hairspray fumes. The ponytail structure I mentioned is this little X shape made from warbler attached to a short piece of PVC pipe. The ponytail itself will have a foam ball with a hole cut into it that matches this PVC pipe, and that's how it'll slide onto my head. I recommend a tutorial video from Kimpatsu Cosplay all about ponytail wigs to learn more about this step. Now with the warbler and pipe structure hot glued directly into the wig, I can start styling these wefts so that they all lie in the direction of that structure, giving this whole wig a heavy dose of got-to-be hairspray and even some regular glue so I don't have to worry about it losing its style while traveling or wearing the wig. I work in sections, parting and clipping the outer layers of this wig out of the way, and I work in a big circle, using the steamer to heat form these plastic fibers in the direction that I want, and keeping them in place with my hairspray and glue. Any excess wig hair that reaches that PVC pipe just gets cut right off. As each layer gets blasted with hot steam and sprayed into shape, you can see the style start to come together. The final outer layer of wig hair is the most important to get laid down nice and cleanly, and working in layers like this just makes it a little easier to handle. This wig is perfectly serviceable as a ponytail wig, but I do think I'm going to be replacing it with something much higher quality in the future. There's just too much empty space between these wefts and the final wig doesn't fit my head quite right. Ponytail attachment comes on a claw clip, but I wanted to remove that and replace it with that styrofoam ball I mentioned earlier, which is easy enough to do with some hot glue. As you can see in my try-on, it just isn't quite right, but I'm trying not to be a perfectionist about this cosplay. It's cute enough, and I know how to upgrade her in the future at least. Before going to bed on day 2 of 3, my plastidip had finished curing, and I could give my shoes and gun and bracelets a couple coats of paint. The blue paint I used for the main body of the shoe that I just showed is Angelus Leather Paint. And I adore this product for painting shoes because it's actually nice and flexible and it bends instead of cracks. Plus, look how vibrant it is! I also start to add the first layers of silver and bronze to these details, and I start to feel the exhaustion setting in and finally head to bed. Only one day of crafting left. Today is the last day I have to work on Zero Suit Samus before I leave for Chicago tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m. So here are the last tasks I need to complete. The shoes and the paralyzer just need a couple extra coats of paint. Then I get to peel off the masking tape and see the final product with that glowing effect. The wig is also very close to being done. However, I tried it on last night and there is a lot of gapping in the back by my neck. And it's not very cute. I think I'm going to try to sew on some clips to make that look a little better. I'm trying not to stress about how ugly that is. I need to make some attachments for the wrist cuffs, which is just going to be Velcro. And last but certainly not least, the bodysuit doesn't actually quite fit me yet. And I'm going to try to make all the pink spots glow. We'll see. I'm really happy I didn't have to buy any new materials to make this. I already had everything in my cosplay office of ultimate hoarding, so it feels good to just bust out a costume that's been sitting there for years. So let's just bust it out already. Right back to the painting. I didn't add any glowing pink lights into this gun, so I faked the effect with white and pink paint. And I'm ultimately really happy with how this prop turned out. Finished up the paint job on the shoes, so I got to take off that masking tape that was covering up my glowing section. Please enjoy these mildly satisfying peelies. My Samus accessories are complete! But since I still have time, let's add even more lights. Alright, a couple of things from this bodysuit. First of all, the arms are much too long on me, and the hands, they don't fit at all. Look how baggy that is. From the front, like, this kind of looks alright, but from the side, it is not snatched. It should be more like, you know, in like that. I am going to take it in at the sides. I'm especially going to take it in at the hands. And then once I try that back on, we will be attempting to add some LEDs on the back, and I'm going to skip adding LEDs on the hands. Wish I could roll into a little ball and go to sleep. The gloves that are too big had gussets sewn into them, which is just an extra piece of fabric that's supposed to help the gloves fit better, but not in this case. So I just seam ripped all of the gussets and sewed the glove back together without them, and they fit much better. The sides of this suit were also marked and taken in real quick. The tricky part of these alterations would be adding the LEDs into the fabric bodysuit, but I've actually done this before, and it's not that much different from adding LEDs into props. To make it easier on myself, I trace out the shape on the inside of this fabric to make it easy to see where my Plastizote foam and LEDs will go. Hot glue works great to attach foam to fabric, so I slap those pieces right on. Since a zipper does go through this glowing section, there will be 2 packs of LEDs, one for each side of the suit. They get bunched up and attached the same way I attached them for the other props. I just glued them into place and covered them in more aluminum foil.
Was he an experiment created in some kind of football
Why does it stop
laboratory?
working?
Or is all of his success attributed to his famously specific diet? This dude hasn't had sugar in months.
Although, I did get all the way through spacing out these pink lights before I realized they were actually broken. Luckily, I did have plenty of spares and I hadn't actually glued these into place yet. But with plenty of time to spare, I finished the last step of improving this pre-made Samus cosplay into something just a little bit more impressive. Glowing suit, glowing shoes, a neat prop gun, and I was ready to pack for Chicago. Except I had to unpack and repack everything into my bigger suitcase after I realized I didn't have space for my regular clothes. Okay, now let's head to Chicago and enjoy C2E2 2024.
Samus.
C2E2 was a hell of a lot of fun. By the way, that Samus footage you saw of me at the convention was actually taken by my mother. So, everyone say thank you to Mama Simrel. I wore Samus on day 1 of the convention, and it was actually pretty chill. The real whirlwind was day 2. I got to hang out with some cosplay friends and be a cosplay handler to my pal Maker Fishmeal, and then I got to meet the cast of Hannibal, and I got to go to the Hannibal reunion. If you didn't know, Hannibal is my #1 favorite show of all time. I even have a mural of them in my dining room. And then day 2 ended with me and Maker sitting in the front row for the Cosplay Crown Championships. It is a huge global cosplay contest with the best of the best for craftsmanship. And y'all, it is so inspiring. I don't even think I can put it into words just how beautiful and clean and impressive and high effort these builds were. It just solidifies even more how much I want to compete again and how excited I am to finish Daymalin and maybe potentially, I hope, enter into the Crown Championships next year. And if you made it this far into this video, you should subscribe. Please. Yeah, I hope you learned something. And bye!